show the slides, and that portion will go just a little bit faster. Now, I made my statement at the beginning, way back before the scripture was read, but just let me say that one of my concerns was, and you'll see it carried out here, that we not only just put a roof on a church in Zaire, in Kinshasa, but that also those team members who went would have a larger experience. There's more to Africa than just Kinshasa, and we said this over and over to one another, and so that they might also travel out into the bush, into the other mission stations, to have a broader experience, but at the same time to make their very fresh contribution in that particular way. Jeff came just a little bit later, and he came just after the accident, and it was such a wonderful thing to have him come on the scene fresh, without, in a sense, having seen it, and who brought new life into us just through his very presence and work there. Of course, he's such a sensitive guy, and so much help in that way. Bill, we went through all of it together, didn't we? And Bill is 16, but wow, what a mature young man. And the work and energy he put out was something else. So let me ask, Bill, would you like to come and make your statement first?
I had the privilege of going to Chicago. I got here. I stayed with Dr. Norm and Gina Bell, and they've been missionaries there for 27 years. And I got to see the bush and see how they live. I thought it was real interesting. And while I'm up here, I'd like to thank the congregation who supported me on this trip. I had a lot of help from certain Sunday school classes and youth group and Brad Morrison, and certain individual members of the congregation. That was a big help because I would have never made it there alone. And I just like thank you so much.
Wow, what a guy. Jim, come.
Thank you, Jack. What day? Whenever they would greet you in the morning or afternoon, anytime they would go, what day? That means hello. Anyway, when Jack first asked me to share with you my experience in Africa, 4 things came to mind that stuck out where I saw the power and glory of God working. First of all, watching Jack and Gloria guide the team through an intricate process of healing, just observing the Holy Spirit working through them was one of the most powerful Christian experiences of my life. They're truly wonderful people, and I feel they both have enriched my life in so many ways. I personally like to give them a round of applause. Thank you very much for all your service. And Bill Metz is another one. I was lucky enough to room with Bill. This is one big boy, too. Imagine it's a man of 16 rooming with a boy of 36. We had a lot of fun, but it was really refreshing to see the young man in today's world with his head on his shoulders as much as Bill does. Watching Bill adjust to the tragedy, listening to him late at night planning his life ahead, just working and joking with him made me realize what a tribute Bill is to his parents, to this church, and especially to the work of God. And I've gotten before. Anyway, you'll see some of the slides here. This was originally set up to go along with the slide. You'll see them in retrospect. But I went to Africa to build a roof. Along the way, I found really warm and beautiful people from the team to the African people in the city and in the country. I spent my first week in the city working on the church, and the second week I spent out in the bush with the regional missionaries on the area they call the plateau. I recorded about an hour and a half of music while I was there. And one thing our song didn't have is out in the bush, when somebody is really liking the music, they'll stand up and go, sweet! We forgot to do that. Maybe when we do the refrain, one of us can stand up and do it. But the missionary told me that is a sign that you're in the bush when you hear that. But anyway, in the city, the music was a little more refined than it was in the country. And there's one song that was particularly beautiful. In fact, we found ourselves singing it quite a bit at work. There's one, it's in English. You can hear it, you can tell it's English. There's there's one word there, come on, come on. And as we were working through the day, we'd tell the laborers, come on, come on. We'd be singing the song. I hope this comes across. Can you hear it?
Where are you, my Jesus? For listen to me, my Lord, in my Lord's spirit. I come for you, Jesus. Where are you, my Jesus? For listen to me. Can you help me? Come on, come on, come on, come on, my friend. Come on, take my friend. Come on, my friend. To take benediction. Come on, my friend. Come on to benediction.
That was just two guys. Pastor's son Wilson and was singing the lead, and then the bass was baritone. Never was the other guy. His good friend. And as we worked in the church there in the city, in the afternoon, sometimes in the morning, the women of the church would just assemble, some 40 to 60 of them, and just start singing to us as we worked. And I'm just going to play just about 20 seconds or 30 seconds of what it sounded like for time's sake here. But it's really nice to hear this. You can hear the hammering in the background. I've got an hour and a half of this stuff. In fact, this tape is available to anybody who wants to make copies of it. So you're welcome to it. Anyway, there's a little bit. So anyway, the second week I was out in the country with Lynn Chapman. And Lynn Chapman was described to me as an old-fashioned missionary. If I understand it correctly, Lynn's sole function is to support the Christian community in the small villages on the area called the Plateau, which is a higher sandy area. It's mostly grassy plain with a few oases here and there. And this support includes pastoral support, church construction, education for the villagers of all ages, as well as agricultural and medical support. One example I thought was really profound. I was told that most of the African bush families try to have about 10 children, only expecting 4 to live. Because of some of the medical things that have been done, now about 8 and 10 live. And so the villages have a lot of children there. We visited several villages in the week we were out in the bush, ranging from a population of 80 to a few hundred. And the people live very much like they have free on grass shacks, and they're hunters and gatherers. The women, they're having children in their early teens. And anyway, I guess the rest is the slides. I spent 3 days in Dead Day. We installed a new pasture there and went through a few days of ceremonies. A lot more beautiful singing going on. And then we packed up the original pasture and his family and furniture and goats and everything tied into the back of a pickup truck and took him to another town. So, anyway.
You said a bit about Jeff's sensitivities. You know, just really a special person at the right place, right time. All right, I'd like to ask Jeff and Bill to come over. And we are now, everybody got their fan ready. Y'all ready? You gotta have something to fan with. I'm going to ask someone if they'll close the door over here. We'll close the doors in back. If we can catch the lights in the back there, let's get it all closed up here. We appreciate Clark bringing his projector this morning and getting us in focus and doing that for us. All right, can you close the doors back there, Clovis? They come straight onto the screen here. And Dick, there are the light switches right behind you. You have to do all the light switches there. Try up on one of them. Yeah, thank you, Robert. You get it there. There you go. Okay, thank you. Hey, bravo. Well, we're going to do this, Robert. Please keep the door closed. There you go. Thank you. We're going to, we start out from Los Angeles. Whoop. Let's keep the lights out. Please, catch him and say, keep it out. There we go. We start out from Los Angeles, and of course we had to be there 2 hours ahead of time. We flew by Pan Am to Brussels, and now the next picture will show you that we had a 12-hour delay in Brussels. And it showed up with the jet lag and everything. And then we were on our way to Zaire. And let's see, who's next here? The chef.
This is out of the Bette. It's about 100 miles from any city. And this is the pasture that's being installed. He's the new pastor. He just came out of school in a year or two of training. And you can see Glenn Chapman, the missionary there on the left. He's about age 34. He was born in Zaire and came to the States for a few years, but then decided he wanted to go back and to dedicate his life. He just, I believe he's filling in for a gentleman that just retired after 35 years. Norm Riddle. Okay, next. And this is the pastor that, same pastor, and the guy on the left is the regional pastor. Okay, the next one. This is communion. It's interesting. Next one. We built a Sunday school, and this is it. You can just see some of the structures, just poles that they've gathered with some rattan that they wrap it with. Next one. And everything's cut to fit with the machete. Next. And it gives you an example before and after. There's Glenn again in the hat. And some other strange movie. Yeah. Next. Now, this is on the way down to the water hole, which is, the village is just right behind us. You walk almost a mile down to a spring and it just gushes out of the side of the hill. There you bathe. Further up you get the drinking water, and there's another area where they prepare some cooking and stuff. Next. This is the water hole. This guy with the slingshot here is really good. On the way down, we keep nailing birds left and right. Next one. Here's some of the children swimming in the water hole. When you would walk down, you'd have to call out, and they would tell you, Wisa, or, come, stop. Come or go, because the men could not walk in on the women or vice versa. Next. There's the kids all showing off to the camera. Next. I told them to splash it up real good, so that they're splashing it up. Okay, next. If you look there on the left in the hill, there's a woman. Daily duty was just to come down here in the forest and gather some sticks and take it back up to the village. Next. And there's the gal that's on the left carrying things, and these other guys on the right followed me everywhere I went. Okay, next. This is eating. We're actually sitting at the front of the pulpit of the chapel, right up front there. And the day we arrived, the chief, which I don't have a slide of him, I have some still shots of him, brought us down, and they had just captured a 13-foot boa constrictor. And they were real happy because it was the first one of the season they'd caught. And that's it in the orange bowl. And I said, they wanted me to eat it, and I said, boa constrictor, I don't know. And he said, well, if you dishonor us by not eating what's served you, tomorrow we eat you. So, no, he didn't really say that. Anyway, there's antelope there also, and one night we had caterpillars. And that stuff in the middle is manioc, and that's created from a tuberous root that's washed and dried and then pounded into a powder and mixed with boiling water and served sort of like a dough. You pinch off a little and eat your food with it. Everything's eaten by hand. Next. And then one night we were sitting with the elders having a campfire. You imagine this beautiful stars unobstructed by any clouds or anything, and it was just brilliant. And then these boys showed up with the drums, and next, and then the whole village showed up, and we had sung a beautiful song for about a half an hour, and I have that on tape too. So anyway, we left the next day.
Next, please. This is Norm and Gina Bell. I stayed with them in Kikongo. They've been there for some 26 or 27 years. These are the villagers. They built those toys there by hand. I don't quite know how they did it. I don't follow that. Very intricate, very exact. They made it after the trucks that they see drive by. Next, please. That's me, and that person to the left of me is an accountant. They go up and they check out the missionaries' books, and those were 3 villagers to my right, and see how they carry their stuff on their head. That's very common there. Next, please. And that was one of the huts that they lived in, and most of the villagers lived there. Some of them had missionary-built houses because they had a pastor school. They were brick built by missionaries, but most of the villagers lived in these straw huts. Next, please. This was the church there. I don't know how old it is. It's been there for quite a while, obviously. But it was very cool and comfortable inside. It was well built. It was built just like most of the other churches there. And it couldn't seated more than maybe 150 for a small church. Next, please. This is a pastor and his family that we picked up on the way to Kikongo. It was about an 11-hour drive. And he needed a ride some 6 or 7 hours away, so we stopped to pick them up, and the bells, they knew them, and it wasn't a problem. They had a big car, and gave them a ride. They did that a lot, apparently. Next, please. This was in the village. There was a lot of nearby villages, and we had to drive around and get stuff, mostly sand, and they obviously had an abundance. And these were children from a nearby village that allowed me to take a picture. Some allowed me to, and some didn't. These people did. Next, please. And these were 2 of the kids that showed me around Kikongo. Like with Jeff, they pretty much stayed on my heels the whole time, so wherever I went, they went. And they showed me their gardens, their houses. I got to go inside and see their rooms, and it was interesting how they lived. And they gave me some of their sugar cane, some of the other stuff that they grew. Next, please. This was at the airstrip. This was the day that I got there. There was a plane came in, brought in some people from another village, and everyone came. They liked to watch a plane come in and talk to people who just came and people who were leaving. And these were, I'd say about half of the village kids. There must have been a lot more running around. That's Gary Foster in the back. He's been building a church there for the past 4, or not church, a hospital there for the past 4 years. And those are 2 kids beside him. Next, please. And there's another kid that was showing me around. He was pretty much on my heels the whole time. And I think this is his family, and that's his mom there. She's smashing with manioc, like Jeff said earlier. It was one of their staple foods there. Next, please. And this is Tim Kenmore and Jeff down the far end. And Tim and Kim, they showed us around Kinshasa most of the time, drove us around, brought us to their house, we played basketball. They brought us to restaurants while Jack was out doing his thing. They were pretty much our chauffeur while we were there. And that does it for my slides.
Thank you, Bill. Good, we'll move on here now to the project. This is the inside of the church. It's 76 feet wide, 149 feet long. And you can see the balcony that they're building on either side. This particular, this is looking toward where the pastor would stay on the pulpit area. And they built that structure up over as the end of the church. And then we had to match it with a roof. And I had not seen it before we arrived. So we had to modify our truss just a little bit to match that particular kind of a structure. We had our lumber hauled in. Next picture. Of course, one of the first things you do is build that first truss on the ground, and so that it becomes a model. Then you build all other trusses just exactly the same, so when you put them up, they'll match. We had 9 to put up, and they were 15 feet apart. After we built them, then we cut them in half because they weighed 3 tons. And when we cut them in half, then we only had 1.5 tons at a time to lift. And in the next picture, you see us moving them because we didn't have cranes or machinery, but when it was time to move one after it was finished, we would just call everybody who was singing and sitting around the edge or who was working, and lots of people were working and helping us, and they would all rush out and grab on and sing, as Jeff said, as they would move the finished truss to wherever we wanted it. And you also see women picture in the next picture here, women power. We had to move our tower. When it was time to move the tower, the women would just attach the ropes to it, and singing, they would all pull and just slide the tower down through the church because the tower itself weighed a couple of tons. You see the red hats. Somebody came up with 5, I guess the pastor came up with 5 hard hats that we could wear. Next picture. Not only did we have the women helping in the actual work, but they did the cooking and preparation. And everybody who was inside the church who helped during the day was fed every evening. And we're talking upwards of 100, 120, 140 people. And they would feed them, and they would prepare all day under one corner of the balcony. The last week, they also fed the team. We ate at noon, they liked to eat in the evening, and they moved their time of eating up to noon so we could all eat together during the last week. Now on to the construction. One more. Glorious Gloria, with helping in the preparation there. The women were really, really fun to be with and added a lot of life to the construction. All right, next picture. One more. The singing, Jeff brought that out. These 20 young people, they really sang, and they enjoyed singing at times of when we were resting on the job. Next. Now we can get to the construction. One of the things we did was to build a platform 20 feet up. The full height was 36 feet, and it's about 3.5 stories. So we built a platform half the way up so that we could lift the trusses up on top of this platform, assemble them, and then push them up into place. The next picture, you see us actually raising one of the trusses. We had to stand them up on the ground, and so that we could slide them into position to lift them up. And so lots of people just grab hold and stand it up, and so we could get a hold of it. Next. If you look through the scaffolding, you see the truss standing up and now actually being lifted up. That dark shadow through there is the truss. And on the ground next to the tower is what we call a come-along, and it has a big pump handle, and one pumps and pulls that truss up into place. Next. This is arriving toward the top, and of course with all of the ropes holding the tower up and with the platform and so forth, one has to be careful because the truss tends to catch on things, and so people guide it up into place. You see behind it that great, great tower, that's a Lumumba monument. And about 25 years ago, the president started to build that in honor of the first prime minister of the nation Patrice Lumumba. But it was a time when there was a great famine in the land, and many people were dying of starvation, and the people accused him of wasting money on this while they were starving, and he stopped construction. And those are not guns at the top, those are 2 construction cranes. They stopped construction that day and never went back to complete it, and left all of the construction equipment right there. What we would have done for one of those cranes. You see, as we put up the trusses, that we kept building the roof out by putting the stringers up and even the roofing on to keep everything stable as we worked down through the church. Our next slide shows us when we have put the 2 halves at the top. And it looks rather small here, but you'll see as you go how large a truss it is. We actually raised each half into place and then finally tied them together. So the next slide you see us looking at the actual raising, and we would bring people up on the platform, take about 15 or 20 people, and just push those up into place. That's Mike Lowry on the left, a new American Baptist missionary who's going to Bonga, and he came out the last week to help us. All right, and then our next picture, where the minute that we were pushed up in place, then we had to push the stringers out from the last truss, and so that we could hold it straight and solid, and Africans were willing to climb up there and to nail that in place for us. Next. Here you get another look at the construction process. It's quite a lattice work, isn't it? When you put it all together, you know, that begins to be 150 feet long down through the building there, 76 feet wide. I tell you, all of those who worked with us, we not only volunteered, but they all volunteered at the same time. Not a single person ever asked for pay for what they were doing. Next. And then the last truss was in place, and you see the sheeting that was going on, the metal sheeting up on the top there. We left at this particular point. This was the last Friday, and we were coming down off the roof for our celebration before leaving. Of course, for them to straighten up the stringers and put the sheeting on was absolutely no problem at all. But we felt like all of the heavy work, and in a sense the dangerous work, had been completed. Next. But I have to say that even as we finished that project, you look around in the city of Kinshasa, and there are other churches. Here's a church that's continuing to build blocks, and so that they can put up their walls. Next. Shows a church that is putting up their walls, and you see how they put palm fronds in there to shield themselves from the sun, and they meet in there and worship as they continue to build. And then in the next picture, we see a church that's waiting for its roof. And there's probably all across Sebzo 100 churches that are waiting like this. So the challenge goes on. And then this last picture is for you, just to show you that there is hope over the heat. Good. We can we can open the doors now and turn the lights on. Thank you. We won't take questions now because it's late. It's time for Sunday school. But if you have any questions later on or this evening in church, we can take care of you. I got a call this last week from the uncle of Tim Foltz. And his one message was, as he called, he said, I just got a call and say to you, absolutely do not give up the roof project. It must go on. That's some encouragement. That's some